Each year, a new chapter is added to Grey Cup lore. The names, the faces, always changing, always recalling fond memories of great triumphs. It is a national championship which pervades the country and summons heroes to step forward, to perform to their utmost, for who knows if their time will ever come again. Yes, these are the proven ones, the survivors, the unvanquished, and their mission is simple. Their mission, win the Grey Cup.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
A year of repatriation, 9 teams all in Canada began the season. One no longer exists. It was an opportunity to win back the fans through sacrifice. Hard times for all, even tough guys. And a Winnipeg legend was bade goodbye. Calgary came close, but couldn't get it done even with 2 in control. Back in business in Montreal, a season of ups but more downs, and all melting down to the big showdown here in Steeltown. For the first time in 24 years, Grey Cup fever is back in Hamilton. The great Ticat fans are welcoming the country to a celebration of the spirit of the Grey Cup. But remember, the game's the thing, and the players will have the final say.
We are going to the cup, baby!
1 foot made all the difference for Edmonton.
Toronto! Doc, I hope you don't get cold.
It is Grey Cup Saturday on CBC, prelude to a national celebration. It is just after 2:30 on a cloudy, wet, overcast Saturday afternoon. Here's where the Argonauts and Eskimos will kick it off tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern, 4:30 in Alberta. We come to the southwest corner of the stadium, our host broadcast location. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Williams. Welcome to CBC's coverage of Grey Cup 96. I talked about the wet, cool conditions here this afternoon. We were in Regina 1 year ago. It was cold, but I'll tell you what, nothing like the weather on the prairies this week. In fact, the Eskimos were talking about the weather they left behind when they arrived here, cold weather and snow in north central Alberta. Now, you know, looks are deceiving. Look behind me. It doesn't look that bad. The cold on the prairies, though, is a dry cold, and Steve Armitage standing out on the sidelines. A very different cold here this afternoon.
Brian, it's a damp cold. You think a guy from the West Coast would get used to that, but you never do. It was so cold this morning, we had rain, even a little bit of snow, that Ronnie Lancaster only had the Eskimos on the field for about 15 minutes, did a little stretching, kicked some field goals, ran off the field into the bus back to the hotel. Don Matthews, on the other hand, had the Argos out here for a full session, maybe to get them acclimatized to the kind of weather that we're going to get tomorrow. Back in '72, I watched my first Grey Cup game here at Ivor Wynne, saw the Ticats beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders. It was a beautiful day and a great finish. Maybe we'll get some good weather and a great finish tomorrow for the Argos Eskimos. Brian?
Hey, Steve, you talk about great finishes tomorrow at 5 Eastern on our preview show. We'll relive the drive that led Hamilton to the victory over Saskatchewan, Sutter's field goal in '72. Coming up in just over 1 hour, you know, we talk about the league. We usually talk to executives and veterans. How about current-day players? Michael Souls from Montreal, David Archer, formerly of Ottawa, not sure where he is right now. We'll profile Don Matthews. Larry Smith will join me. And Stephen Brunt, the highly respected columnist from the Globe and Mail, will put it all into perspective. That's in about 60 minutes from now. As we come back live to Ivor Wynne Stadium, we take a pan shot down to the eastern portion of the city, and we'll see Ivor Wynne Stadium. The Argonauts and the Edmonton Eskimos will kick it off tomorrow afternoon at 6:30 Eastern. That is 4:30 in Alberta. Now, we're on the air here for the next 45 minutes, and what we are going to do is we are going to talk football naturally. We are going to take a look at the 2 teams, and we'll meet tomorrow afternoon. We'll talk history. We're also going to talk about the future of the Canadian Football League. The Ottawa Roughriders exist no more. There is a real danger that this could be the last Grey Cup of its size. You know, when we talk about problems facing the Canadian Football League, we so often talk with commissioners, and we will talk with Larry Smith today. We hear from owners, we hear from agents. How about modern-day players? Let's have a look at two fellas visiting me here in the booth this afternoon. We begin with a graduate of McGill University, a former Redman. No, we're going to begin with David Archer. This is David Archer, who came north after a great career in the National Football League to play with the Ottawa Rough Riders. Actually took a cut in pay this season. The Rough Riders are no more. Here's the product of McGill University, the bilingual and classy Michael Souls, 7 years with the Edmonton Eskimos, and this year going back to play at home in Montreal. And as I say, David Archer and Michael Souls joining me here at Civic Stadium, Ivor Wynne Stadium this afternoon, formerly Civic Stadium. Michael, let's begin with you. You're a Canadian. We have both factions represented here, American and Canadian. You've played East and West. You've played university football. Are you pessimistic? What do you talk about when you talk about with the other players?
After having been in the league for 8 years, you tend to be optimistic. You know, we've had problems certainly over the last 5 years. It always seems there's something that comes up, but you know, the guys, when they talk about it, they just look forward to finally getting people to look at this game and see it for what it is, and it's a great product, and we're always optimistic.
Yeah, it is a great product, and you're optimistic. But boy, time's running out. I mean, you have to be realistic at some time, don't you?
Well, certainly. I mean, I think you know, there's probably some people looking at the possibility of getting back to the way it maybe was a few years ago when people looked at working at the same time as when they were playing, and I tried to do that myself this year. So maybe that's the area you got to go, where you try and get people more into the community, like they certainly do in Edmonton, where I played for 7 years. So obviously there's a lot of things to discuss, but what I can say is that the players seem to just be happy about the football and be looking forward to next year.
David Archer, you come up here with a big contract. You take a huge pay hit. The team goes out of business. How can you be optimistic?
Well, I think that's what you have to do. I think that if you want to look at it as a cup is half empty, cup is half full. I think that there's a lot of good things about this game. The game drives itself. So sure, we have to get some people involved that have the money to drive this thing. But there's so many people within every city in this league that are really the heart and soul of the league. There's 15, 20, 25,000 people in every city in this league that want CFL football. Now we have to devise a plan to make it work.
All right, but how will teams live with that plan? Bob Nicholson's going to be here in a few minutes. They're paying big money to Doug Flutie. Toronto fans demand a marquee player. Is it possible to live with restructuring? Do Canadians even want, from your perspective, the Canadian Football League?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that Canadians want the professional game in this country. I think there has to be some salary structure, some changes in that. I think that the players understand that that's going to have to be part of what's going to make this league survive. As a player that I'm in my 12th year playing pro football, 8 in the NFL and 4 in this league, my concerns are for the young guys that are from Canada, the young guys that are in the States that have a chance to come to Canada to play. I want that to exist, and I'm willing to do what it takes to get that done.
What motivated you to take the pay cut? I mean, you've put your mouth where your money is, or your money where your mouth is, however you want to put it. You've done what many refuse to do.
Well, I think that, again, I had a lot of respect for the game. I felt like that if I was going to be able to sleep with myself, a peace of mind. I knew that I wanted my players that I played with, my teammates, to know that they were coming in and I was making the sacrifices off the field as well as on the field. They knew I was going to play hard for them on the field, but when they saw that I would take the monetary cut to allow them to pick up their paychecks and continue to come in and know that it was a somewhat stable situation for them, that was something that I needed to do, and I think that there's going to be other players that are going to have to do that.
Michael Souls, can football succeed in your hometown? You played in Edmonton. Huey Campbell's standing here. Edmonton's very different. It's community-owned. The city believes in the team. I detect great cynicism in Montreal and some serious mistakes by Jim Spiros.
I think there was cynicism at first, but I do know that our last 6 weeks there, certainly the media got behind us a lot. You obviously have to have a winner in Montreal, and that's what people always said, and I think the Baltimore organization came in and built a pretty good team. We were 12-6 this year, and I look forward to next year. I really think that we could sell it real well. In
a second or two, French ownership a must?
I think it is. I think to get the French media behind us, and obviously the French public, because it is 75% of the population is French speaking.
Well, congratulations, the outstanding Canadian in the East. David, big year for you. You'll be on the telecast tomorrow afternoon.
Looking forward to it, Brian.
David Archer and Michael Souls still to come here this afternoon. Commissioner Larry Smith, Bob Nicholson, the president of the Toronto Argonauts, Huey Campbell from the Edmonton Eskimos. I mentioned the Argonauts and Eskimos kicking off at 6:30 Eastern tomorrow. Let's take a look with Mark Lee at how the Argonauts made it here to Hamilton.
They'd hardly been introduced when the Argos scored.
We're underway with the East Final, and it's Mike Pinball Clements. Pinball heading to the score. There are no flags. How about this? Mike Clements, touchdown. Flutie using the blocking of Vic Stevenson now downfield. In the end zone, touchdown. Jimmy Cunningham.
Every Argo element on offense worked, and the score steadily mounted.
Flutie keeps. And Flutie scores. Touchdown, Toronto.
Strictly no contest. The expression on Bob Price's face said it all. His Alouettes were floundering hopelessly. And there aren't any diagrams for reversing total domination.
Check the 1 middle when we go back out the next time instead of checking the red.
Shutting down the Owls' ground game added to the snowball effect. Montreal was inundated.
Hey, baby, don't take our defense lightly, baby.
He calls his own number. He'll score. Touchdown, Doug Flutie.
Field General Flutie nearly flawless. Totally awesome. Total control. Celebrating a trip back to the Grey Cup.
I tell you what, Don Matthews has had tremendous success wherever he has been in this Canadian Football League. 7 Grey Cup rings. What, Huey? 5 as an assistant coach with you in Edmonton. 1 as a head coach with Baltimore. 1 as a head coach with the BC Lions. Once again, we go back to Mark Lee, this time with a look at the winning combination. Don Matthews and quarterback Doug Flutie.
Confident football team, and we feel very, very confident that we're going to win every time we go on the field.
Confident, bordering on cocky. Last year, the Matthews coached Stallions reveled in their Grey Cup win over Calgary, a defeat made more bitter.
When we played Baltimore last year in the Grey Cup, the way they acted, the way they, you know, to see that on the football field kind of turned my stomach a little bit.
1 year later, Doug Flutie found himself joining forces with the enemy, charmed by the coach he opposed.
I called Doug when he was in contract negotiations, and I told him what to expect.
He said, this is the way things are here. You're in control. You're going to call your own plays. You're going to have more fun playing football than you ever have in your life.
I believe that's all come true, and he's probably had the most fun year that he's ever had playing football.
Indeed, Flutie and Matthews became an instant hit, smashing Argo team records. But Doug still wasn't buying into the Matthews cult.
I'll tell you the truth, at the beginning of the year seeing that, I'm wondering, are these guys ready to play? Are we, you know, what are we doing here?
Give me that ball. Let's recreate that, okay? You're in the end zone. You're wide open. You get the pass. Give me the dance.
I'm sure once we get that big lead, I'm going to start talking again.
Boy, you line up on the field and go, and everybody's playing.
He's always been fairly relaxed, and maybe it was because we were a relaxed organization that he started out with immediately. But I think he's found the relaxed atmosphere even more to his liking.
Slowly, you get caught up in that atmosphere and you start having fun with it, and which I think I've gotten to the point now. I really don't jump in full board, but the attitude has definitely rubbed off a little bit.
I enjoy Doug Flutie's skills. I enjoy everything he does, and I enjoy helping the legend grow.
And he says, I'm gonna make that legend even bigger. You're gonna kick a field goal this year.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that not only as a quarterback, a runner, and a thrower, he also has the skill to kick an extra point or a field goal.
We almost did it in Hamilton, and I had totally forgotten about even doing it. And I'm kneeling down to hold for the extra point, and Vanderjack's like, Doug, take this one. And I was like, nah, that's all right. Hey, come on, let's go. So I figured, what the heck? And I wouldn't have done it if the atmosphere wasn't such that we were having fun out there and so loose.
He is without question the best football player I've ever been around the Canadian Football League, ever. I'm
totally very content, and I'd love to finish my career here.
With that convert, Doug Flutie eventually became a disciple of Don Matthews, a follower of the game plan and the personality that wins.
Flutie named the outstanding player last night for the 5th time. Now, he is called a disciple of Don Matthews. Let's go up to the main press box. There's an outstanding Canadian football player. Dave Sapunjas knew Flutie before he was, quote, a disciple of Don Matthews. Scott Oak and Dave standing by right up where the bright lights are.
All right, Brian, and until last night, Dave Sapunjas was the outstanding Canadian in the CFL. He's now been succeeded by Edmonton's Leroy Blue. Dave, Don Matthews is a winner. It's as simple as that, but he made a very interesting point when he was hired by the Argonauts. He said, you keep me, or hire me, but keep the same players. You're going to be 4-14 again. As it was, he presided over one of the most remarkable turnarounds in CFL history.
Well, that's his modest side coming through, but no doubt you need the skill level, and bringing Doug over was the biggest thing. But you look at their defense, and there's 5 starters that played on the Baltimore championship team last year. So he brought over the personnel that they needed to win.
We just saw Don Matthews be incredibly complimentary towards Doug Flutie. He's been that way all week long. I think Flutie's almost been embarrassed by it, but the reality is that Doug Flutie can make anybody a better coach.
Absolutely. Doug's 34 years old. He's played 7 years in the league. He's smart. He knows what he has to do with the football. Let him run the offense. Doug is the man. Let him do the things that he has to do on the field, and that's what you want.
Is Don Matthews the consummate player's coach when you consider, for example, the Argos practiced in pads only 4 times all season long?
He treats his players with respect. He treats them like men. It's not like a college or a high school football team out in the field. It's guys that are 20 to 30 years old, and he treats them with respect, and he develops a friendship between the players and the coach, which is important.
All right, Dave, look forward to hearing from you again later in the hour and to having you on the telecast with us tomorrow. Brian, back to you.
All right, Scott, you talk about Don Matthews treating his players like men and treating them like they're mature adults. The same thing for Ronnie Lancaster. They are very similar in that aspect of their coaching. We look down on Ivor Wynne Stadium on this Saturday afternoon. Huey Campbell and Argos president Bob Nicholson up next.
You don't exist anymore. Well, it's over. You don't exist anymore. Whoa, whoa, it's over. You don't exist anymore.
Failed expansion and goofy owners. We'll talk with that when we talk about that when we talk with Larry Smith in just a few minutes. Nothing goofy about the Edmonton Eskimos or the Toronto Argonauts. And joining me live here in the studio this afternoon, the president of the Argonauts, Bob Nicholson, the highly respected general manager of the Eskimos, Huey Campbell. This is painted as the little town, the poor guys, the community ownership against the millionaires that can pay Flutie in excess of $1 million a year.
David and Goliath.
Yeah, David and Goliath. Is it really that way? Are we going to see the end of the marquee players and see teams like Toronto have to pare down and become responsible, if that's the way?
Well, I think Toronto's been responsible. I think we need to have everyone in the league be that way, and I think we're close to that. It's not as far away as some people make it out to be.
Toronto has been responsible in as much as, and I think Huey, you would agree, the Toronto market needs a marquee player like Doug Flutie, but can you continue to have one team paying that kind of salary to one player when the other teams are not?
Well, I think if the team is capable, it's a personal opinion, if the team is capable of writing the check, then that's fine. And when you say Toronto needs somebody like Doug Flutie, I guess we all need that, right? I mean, he is one of a kind, a very special player. So, you know, I hate to see him somehow be legislated out of the league. And I've enjoyed having Doug in the league at BC and Calgary and now at Toronto, and he's done a tremendous job for our league.
Bob, can you afford Doug Flutie next year?
Well, I think so. We've certainly have this year, and Doug's been a tremendous addition to our club. I think it was very important to have Doug here this year, and we needed to turn our program around. He's been the big catalyst that's helped us do that.
But I'm hearing you're going to lose $6 million. Your biggest regular season crowd was still something like 27,000. He did not ignite the city. Do you agree?
Well, no, I think he did bring a lot to the city. There's a better buzz around the city this year than I've heard, certainly in the 3 years that I've been involved with the club. And I think Doug was a big factor. He was part of the reason why that happened. And he's just an exciting guy to watch. I mean, I think we're selling sports entertainment, and Doug's the best guy, I think, in the league to promote our league and to be entertaining type of player.
Are you losing that much money? And if you are, can you afford it?
We've never discussed that, Brian, and I appreciate you bringing it up, of course. But no, we never talk about our financial situation. Our owners have been great supporters of the league, and so we try to leave the financial things out of the newspapers and out of television, and we want to focus on the game, and that's why we don't talk about it.
I talked about goofy owners. You won't say it. I will. Horn Chen's gone in Ottawa. What happens next year, Huey? An 8-team league, or do they revive Ottawa?
I'm not sure for sure that it's an 8-team league, but I am sure that every professional league has goofy owners. That it's part of the territory. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to own a pro team, you've got to have some reason beyond just good business that you want to do it.
How many teams do you see realistically playing next year, Hugh?
If you want me to guess, I'd guess there would be 8, but I don't really know. It could be 8 or 9.
Bob, can you sell 8 teams? I mean, the Blue Jays see such a variety of opponents, as do the Maple Leafs, the Oilers, the Flames. Would people put up with seeing the same team so many times?
Well, I don't think it'd be dramatic. I don't think the schedule would be dramatically different than it is this year. I think we could put a schedule together. If we did have 8 teams, and obviously our still hope is that we'll have 9 teams, but that we could still put a schedule together, I think, that would be pleasing to the crowds, and that we would still be able to attract them. I mean, our main thing is to make sure that our team, first and foremost, is the one that entertains.
Quick word on tomorrow. Huey, we keep hearing about this vaunted Edmonton defense. McManus seems to do nothing but win. Quick word on your offense and how you see it playing out tomorrow.
Well, I think that our defense matches up with any defense in the league, but it doesn't match up with every offense, and the problem is Doug Flutie. So we have to just play great and then hang on and hope that the guy you mentioned, McManus, can come back and get us a few points, and then at the very end somebody kicks a field goal and it either goes through or it doesn't.
Bob, quick word on tomorrow's game.
Well, we're facing a quality organization, and they've surprised a lot of people. I know it's going to be a great game.
You know what the irony is here? We're talking about the possible demise of the league, yet we've got 2 great teams, 2 great organizations, good coaches. It should be an outstanding game tomorrow afternoon. Thanks to Huey Campbell. Thanks to Bob Nicholson. We'll continue live from Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton right after this.
Your typical Western final. Adverse conditions. Game plans are out. Survival is what counts.
Garcia looking down the sidelines for Pitts. It's intercepted.
Turnovers undermine the stamp. Clutch in the playoffs again. Lake Power would be decisive. "30 minutes to go. Who wanted it more? Who'd figure out a way to win?" A Calgary threat blanketed. 5 minutes to play. Deadlock.
It's good. This game is tied.
A kicker's dream. Game on the line. No time left. One chance to lift your team into the Grey Cup.
The Eskimos came in here and earned the berth to the Grey Cup. Will they do it in 96 with this kick by Fleming? It's good. And the Edmonton Eskimos have knocked off the Calgary Stampeders and are Grey Cup bound. Toronto! Doc, I hope you don't get cold.
As we look at Iverwin Stadium, you saw highlights from last Sunday's Western Final. So often the Western Final is the very best game of the year played in Canadian football. Still to come, Larry Smith, Hamilton resident Stephen Brent, the respected columnist from the Toronto Globe and Mail. But right now, let's go out to the north side of the stadium. Standing on the sidelines, Steve Armitage.
Thank you, Brian, where it is still cold. You've got to have depth to get to a Grey Cup final, and the Edmonton Eskimos certainly have that at the linebacker position. Larry Ruck will not start tomorrow. He's out with a pulled hamstring, so that opens the door for the hometown favorite, the local hero, Bruce Dixon, to start.
I'm not treating this game any different than I would, another game. We have guys that'll come in and rotate in and out, and we'll do the same type of deal we've been doing the last, 8 weeks. It's just that I'm prepared to play a few more snaps than usual.
Are you feeling any extra pressure because this is your hometown? You played your high school football just down the road.
Yeah, I played all my high school football in this stadium, so I'm comfortable in here, but I don't feel any more pressure than a normal Grey Cup game, just the pressure of the big game.
Dixon's going to have his own cheering section here and more. He figures he'll have about a dozen family and friends. Now, let's go up to the broadcast booth and join Scott Oak. Scott?
All right, Steve, and doesn't Dave Sapunjas know how far the Edmonton Eskimos can go when they get it cranked up at just the right time of year? They beat the Calgary Stampeders in both the 93 and 96 West Finals. Need I remind you, but do you see any similarities between the 96 Eskimos and the team of 3 years ago?
Thanks for the reminder, first of all. But yeah, certainly, they have a great tradition of winning. And come playoff time, they do seem to crank it up. And their strength is their defense. They stopped us in 93, and they stopped us this year. And the key to Edmonton, no doubt, is their defense, and they always seem to pull through in the right games.
In fact, the Eskimo defense stopped the Stampeders 3 times this year, and I know this is bordering on emotional damage I'm doing to you here, but tell me about the Eskimo defense. Are they making a statement by starting 4 Canadians when other teams have loaded up with Americans on the D?
Well, I don't think they're waving the Canadian flag. I think they just have that type of personnel. Whether they're Canadian or American, they can step in there and play those spots, and I think that's the reason why they're in there. They have talent.
Dave, it's a whole lot more complicated than saying you have to get to Doug Flutie. Tell me what the Eskimo defense has to do to stop the vaunted Argo offense tomorrow.
Well, I don't think you can stop Doug Flutie. I think you can slow him down. And 2 things you can do. Edmonton's offense has to move the ball and keep Doug off the field. Secondly, I think you play a type of zone where you rush 4 guys and you drop 8 players into a zone and make Doug throw the pass that's 20 yards or over. Don't let him throw that 7-8 yard pass on first downs.
Yeah, don't give him the short stuff over and over again.
Exactly.
All right, Dave, looking forward to having you and Kent Austin with me tomorrow as game day analyst. Right now, back to you, Brian.
I tell you what, the Toronto defense is not half bad. I could be wrong, but I think this game is going to be a lower scoring game than most people figure. A commercial break. Before we go to commercial, the tacticians. Here's Chris Cuthbert with a look at some possible game breakers tomorrow.
The CFL's all-time leader in returns, yardage, and touchdowns, Henry Gizmo Williams, is now in his 10th year with the Eskimos and still a threat to break one at any time. Even at 33, the Memphis Flash isn't showing any signs of slowing down. Has it really been 9 years since the Giz went on that record-breaking romp in the 1987 Grey Cup, helping to propel the Eskimos to a 38-36 victory over Toronto? Same guy, same game breaker.
Back live at Iverwin Stadium, where in 1972, Ian Sutter kicked a field goal. Hamilton beat Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup by a score of 13-10. The beleaguered commissioner of the Canadian Football League, he says, no, I'm not beleaguered. Larry Smith joins me live here in the studio. Hey, you remember the stadium? and 72
Absolutely,
for a very
Brian.
different game.
Yes, we had two of our star American running backs hurt, and they had to put a Canadian in, and I was lucky enough to run for 100 yards and score a couple of touchdowns. We beat Hamilton 23-22.
All right, you were a rookie then, you're no longer a rookie as commissioner. There are two schools of thought. One would say Larry Smith is a failure because of failed expansion and goofy, nutty owners. There's another school of thought that says, hang on, he's done his best, no one could have done better. If you don't like plan A, give me plan B. Is reality somewhere in the middle?
Probably, Brian. I think you have to keep a perspective. In 1992, the league was bankrupt. We had $3 million deficit. It was gloom and doom. There was no hope for anything. I was hired under the expansionist plan, and basically that created a lot of excitement. We took a lot of risk, Brian. I mean, when you think of what we almost achieved, it's quite fantastic.
Almost is the key word. You did not achieve it. Now it's 1996. You've got 8 teams. You used to be optimistic. I sense a pessimism here this week.
No, definitely not. It's third quarter. I'm digging in, and we think we have a great restructuring plan. It's up to the owners now to follow the plan, Brian.
You're digging in. Are you going to be back next year?
I'd like to think that we could get something organized. I'd like to straighten it out before I leave, and I'm feeling pretty good about it right now.
Do you want to come back as commissioner next year?
I would like to, provided that the owners are going to follow the plan that I set up, and we've reviewed it once. We'll review it very, very shortly, and then decision time.
All right, tell us about the plan very quickly. What is it? What is restructuring?
Well, basically, it'll be an economic model that's set up so that your weakest team can be viable. Right now, our model's set up so that our top 4 or 5 teams can make it, but basically the last 2 are really in big trouble, and those last 2 are the ones that suck the blood out of this league and create the image problem, the lack of stability, which affects our revenue opportunities. We figure we can eliminate that with a restructuring concept that I've presented to the owners. We've reviewed it once, and if it's implemented, that means we can eliminate it once and for all in terms of that lack of stability, which is the only thing hurting this league, because there's a lot of good news, Brian.
Give me some, it's ironic that we're talking, as I said to Huey Campbell and Bob Nicholson, about the possible failure of the league, yet you've got 2 great teams, 2 great coaches, and what should be a good game. Let me talk about restructuring. Huey Campbell said just a few minutes ago, I don't mind $1 million player in Toronto if they can afford him, but isn't that the problem? One market can and the other can't?
Well, I think what it means is that we have to rebalance the league, and we will potentially have a higher price player in certain markets than other markets, but the relative cost will be more controlled across the board. We made significant improvements in 5 years, and but the fact is we have to take it that next step. And I'd like to say to the fans is that we're going to work very, very hard. There is going to be a league in 1997, and frankly, it bothers me when I hear all the gloom and doom from the media guys. It's warranted, Brian, but at the same time, we will survive.
It is warranted. I mean, we are doing our job when one team is already folded. Do you expect 8 or 9 teams or 7 teams?
I expect that we would have 8 as a minimum and hopefully 9, and I think it's important that the fans of Ottawa recognize the league came up big time. We took real risks in showing the people of Ottawa that we're there to support the club by loaning them $3.3 million with the hope that local business people would then take the initiative to make this thing a reality for the long term with the likes of David Archer, Joseph Rogers, a great young team. Imagine that team with a stable ownership. They would have been 10-8 as opposed to 3-15.
Do you agree this league has a perception problem? I think the product is better than most people perceive it to be, yet I keep reading you want to deal with the National Football League maybe as a feeder league, and you have had meetings, that's a fact. Does that not give you a farm system image?
No, not at all, Brian, because the type of relationship that we could consider with a third party like the NFL would be more of a marketing type of promotional where they could use that big infrastructure to help us. We have no interest in being a feeder league, an up and down type league of AAA for anybody, because we have a unique brand of football.
If you do not come back as commissioner, and you say you expect to, or at least am I reading you right on that?
Well, I would say that if things work out the way that they should with the owners following the plan and accepting the plan, that I would have to say I'd be interested.
Very briefly, what do you see as your greatest achievement, and what do you see as your greatest disappointment or failure?
Probably my greatest achievement has been to bring some leadership to a league that lacked leadership, to put a bit of business practice in, which didn't exist before, to upgrade the staffs of many of the clubs throughout the league as they followed the leadership of the league, to get Montreal back in the league, to create some excitement through expansion in that $10 or $12 million that no one sent the checks back. They gave us a 3-year bridge financing until we had to really find out what the future of the league was.
What's your biggest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment really is we came real close with the expansion in the States, especially in Baltimore, and we saw how fast our opponents moved when Baltimore became successful.
2-for-1 tickets, I'm told, today in Toronto. They've sold only 33,000 tickets. This is, in effect, part of the Toronto market. Toronto's just a stone's throw away. The problem's not Hamilton, it's Toronto. Do you think the CFL can ever go in Toronto?
Oh, absolutely. Doug Flutie and the group doubled their paid attendance this year, and we thought it would be a slow rebuild. And here we have still some tickets to sell, but we've surpassed all of our revenue objectives for the city, for that region, etc. We'll fill up the stands tomorrow, and we'll see what happens.
You had a big game here in 1972. We talked about it. Give me your spin on tomorrow's game.
I'll tell you what, I think that the Edmonton Eskimos have an excellent chance of winning the football game because of team chemistry versus the talent. And if there's any conditions or elements, I think it'll go to Edmonton's favor. And I think that Toronto has got a tougher time getting themselves up than Edmonton does.
Sitting on the fence, but he's leaning to Edmonton. Commissioner Larry Smith, thank you for joining us here this afternoon. Stay with us, back with Stephen Brunt when we return live to Iverwin Stadium on this Saturday afternoon. Getting dark here in southern Ontario as we look down from the helicopter. This time tomorrow, we'll be just about 2 hours away from kickoff.
Memories of greatness, rekindled each fall. Jackie Parker's game-winning fumble recovery. Kenny Payne putting the finishing touches on the only overtime Grey Cup. A fortunate bounce, which sent Vic Washington and Ottawa to victory. One Scottish soccer player named Sunter, booting the Ticats to victory. Tom Clements to a wide-open Tony Gabriel, settling the clash of the Rough Riders. The same Gabriel grittily leading the underdog Riders to the brink of an upset against Edmonton. An amazing fifth career Grey Cup touchdown by the Eskimos' Brian Kelly. And a tipped pass, which halted BC's bid to overtake the Blue Bombers on a balmy afternoon in Ottawa. In Skydome, they couldn't put a lid over Dave Ridgway's scoring, which made the difference for Saskatchewan. The league's most heralded arrival since Johnny Rogers paid dividends for the Argos, who sailed through Calgary with rocket power to claim the Cup in frigid Winnipeg. While Louis Passaglia made sure the Cup stayed in Canada one more year, when BC and Baltimore met in the first cross-border showdown.
And back live at Iverwin Stadium. I'll tell you what, Flutie may be the best quarterback. Jackie Parker, I watched him as a boy in the 50s at Clark Stadium. The best all-around player by a mile. Quarterback, halfback, played defense. And talking about football players and football stories from the past, joined by Stephen Brunt from the Toronto Globe and Mail, who is a Hamilton resident. You write in the paper today, I went to high school here, Hamilton is not Regina, but it is the only place in the East where the Canadian football is still part of the local mythology.
Yeah, I think that's true. You know, and it's still here to some degree. It's not quite like it was when I was growing up here. It's different, and you know, I think it's sort of like Regina is sort of like where people still believe in Santa Claus, and it's the greatest thing in the world. And here, I think people are kind of pretending they still believe in Santa Claus, and it's a little bit more nostalgia maybe than it is reality. But it's fun, and you couldn't do it in Toronto, you couldn't do it in Montreal, and you couldn't do it in Ottawa. All
right, it's interesting you say you couldn't do it in Toronto. I was at Westdale High School this week for a piece we're going to run tomorrow. Jimmy Young went there, Russ Jackson, Harry Howell, Gabriel out of Burlington. We talk about the schools. Toronto's not that far down the road. I don't want to insult Hamilton, but this is almost part of Toronto now. And yet, what, they're 2-for-1 tickets, you told me this afternoon, and 7,000 remaining.
That's it. And I think that's, you know, Bob Nicholson was in before and talked about the impact Doug Flutie had this year, and he's right. I think they did a great job. They spent a ton of money. They brought the greatest player in the modern history of the league in, and had a great team on the field. But look, they had 8,000 seats to sell when Toronto got into the Grey Cup. They now have, what, 7,000 seats to sell? That's 1,000 people in a city of 4 million that are willing to drive 45 miles.
But I talked about the perception with Larry Smith. The perception this league is not major league is a big problem in Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal. How do you overcome that?
Well, I don't know that you can. And I think it's going to become a bigger problem because of where the league's going to go. The restructuring Larry Smith talks about is going to make it less big league, at least as far as the veneer goes. We're talking about a league that's becoming smaller, necessarily. They're going to have to become smaller to survive. And I wonder about a smaller league in places like Toronto or Vancouver, where, you know, look, we're still in a situation where we're very unsure whether there's going to be a team in Vancouver next year.
But it means something to this country. I was born in Winnipeg. I mentioned going to high school here, but I've lived in the West, in Edmonton. Toronto may get the NFL, not soon, but eventually. But what happens to the rest of the country?
Well, I think the problem is that, look, I think it's a tremendous loss if that's what happens. Culturally, this is unique. It is Canadian. It is all Canadian. You know, and I think the people who still feel that and believe that understand that. The problem is, I think we're a minority now, and I just think you have to look around and realize that there are a lot of people for whom it doesn't mean that or just don't get it.
If you were a betting man, where does it sit 2-3 years from now? Is this the last big-time Grey Cup? 7 teams, 8 teams next year? What happens?
I think when you start getting smaller, it's hard to not get a lot smaller, and I think that that's what you're going to see. It reminds me in some ways of senior hockey, where senior hockey at one point in this country was a big deal, and the Allen Cup was second to the Stanley Cup. It was a tremendous championship. And someone still plays for the Allen Cup. I think an American team actually won it last year, but you know, senior hockey shrank. And to something very small. And I'm wondering if that's where Canadian football.
You know, it means something in Regina, means something in Edmonton, yet the Grey Cup still gets huge ratings, and you don't get huge ratings without the big centers like Vancouver and Toronto.
That's right. Although those people maybe, you know, those people still tune in. They're all once a year people, aren't they? And they all tune in for this one great thing, like it's some kind of tribal memory. They all tune in once a year for the Grey Cup, but they don't. Those people aren't buying tickets. They're not maybe tuning in week to week, and they're not following the game. I think they're doing this because it's something that they think they should do.
I think you hit right on it with the Toronto problem, selling only virtually 1,000 tickets, being so close by. Look for me at the game tomorrow. I said it earlier, to me the great irony is you've got 2 great teams, 2 classy coaches, outstanding players, should be a great game, yet we're talking about a league that may not be here.
Well, we do this, you know, off and on for the last...
It's the Canadian way.
It is the Canadian way.
Don Cherry will tell you that every time.
And it is, look, we're looking at a historically great team in Toronto. As much as I hate to say that as a Hamilton guy, I've got to say it. This is the greatest Argo team I've seen, I think. You know, Don Matthews is a great coach, and against a really tough, gritty Edmonton team, a great organization. They always put a good team on the field. But, you know, that team that beat Montreal last week, and I think Montreal maybe is the second best team in the CFL this year, was awfully impressive. It's going to be, I think you've got a classic matchup in that sense. It's a shame the other stuff gets in the way, but it has to.
Just a couple of seconds, it does have to get in the way. Is Larry Smith back next year?
I don't think so. I suspect not. He might want to be, but I don't think he will be.
Will there be a Grey Cup 3 years from now?
Yes, there will be a Grey Cup, but it won't be like this.
All right. Stephen Brunt from the Toronto Globe and Mail, Hamilton resident, thank you for joining us here this afternoon. Let me remind you as we sign it off, Scott Russell and Terry Leibel standing by with coverage from the Royal Winter Fair. Just a reminder, coming up tonight at 7:30 Eastern, it is Molson Hockey Night in Canada now. This is very important for you people looking on in Alberta. Most of the country will see Montreal's only visit to Toronto, the Canadians and the Maple Leafs at 7:30 Eastern. Viewers in Alberta at 6 Mountain Time will see the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers, the doubleheader game at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 in the West Coast, the Rangers and the Canucks. We're on the air tomorrow afternoon at 5 Eastern, that is 2 o'clock on the West Coast. The Brothers Flutie, great high school tradition here. We are going to take Chuck Ely, Ian Sutter, and Tony Gabriel and relive that great drive of 72 when they went down the field to kick the winning field goal. Sutter from 27 yards with no time remaining as the Saskatchewan Roughriders were defeated by Hamilton 13-10. As we leave Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton on this Saturday afternoon, for all of us, I'm Brian Williams. Now to the Royal Winter Fair.